but has built a great culture, has won a lot, has the respect of his players. But Mike Tomlin has not won a playoff game since 2016. He has never had a below 500 team. It's so impressive. But he has not won a playoff game since 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, we're approaching a decade of the Steelers, a great organization, not having a playoff game. That would never fly in the city of Philadelphia. Jeffrey Lurie got rid of Andy Reid after 14 years because toward the end, it started to get stale. He got rid of Doug Peterson a couple of years after he brought Philadelphia their first Lombardi trophy. Chip Kelly won double-digit games. The Steelers have this unbelievable amount of patience with Mike Tomlin that just would not happen in Philadelphia. Omar Khan, the GM, Mike Tomlin, the coaching staff, they're all in. They're going all in on 2025. Signed Aaron Rodgers, a move that I actually love. Toward the end of the year, he played pretty well for New York Jets, fired its head coach, has an awful owner, and Aaron Rodgers didn't have an offensive coordinator. I mean, he threw for, what, nearly 4,000 yards last year? And so, him going to Pittsburgh, they can play ball control and smart football offensively. They can lean on that defense, lean on that ground game. I think that Aaron Rodgers can work very well there. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are vulnerable. The Buffalo Bills always choke. The Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow, they don't have a defense. Lamar Jackson doesn't have a lot of playoff success. They're a young and up-and-coming team. The Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers, but Pittsburgh can compete with them. And so they've signed Rodgers. They trade for Ramsey. They trade for Jonnu Smith. They made the trade for DK Metcalf. They traded away George Pickens. This is a pretty good team. And so Pittsburgh is going all in on 2025. I do think that swapping Ramsey, 30 years old, not the all-pro player who he's been, not playing at his peak, for Minka Fitzpatrick is a little bit odd. Minka Fitzpatrick is the younger player, and he was a ball-hawking safety for Pittsburgh who generated a lot of turnovers. And now Pittsburgh is so deep at that cornerback position. There's a possibility that Jalen Ramsey at this stage of his career could have been switch to safety. He likes blitzing off the edge. He's a good tackle. Corner, they have Jalen Ramsey, Joey Porter Jr., and Beanie Bishop. Beanie Bishop was also generating a lot of turnovers. And so what does the lineup look like in corner? A little bit wonky, but it goes to show you the depth that the Steelers have on the defensive side of the ball. And last year, before T.J. Watt got banged up and nicked up with an injury, the defense was playing really well. He got hurt. Defense started to falter. Russell Wilson started to get a little bit shaky toward the end of the year. Steelers started off the season very well. Then they tailed off at the end of the year, and then they got embarrassed in the first round of the playoffs by the Baltimore Ravens. And by making all of these moves, they're trying to respond to that. And they clearly think that they're a winner, or at least a contender this year. And I think they can win double-digit games. As for the Miami Dolphins, they get some flexibility here. They save over $10 million with this move, and if they want, if the Minka Fitzpatrick trade does not work out, which I believe they won this trade because they get the better player among the three who are dealt combined, Jonnu Smith, Jalen Ramsey, Minka Fitzpatrick, they can move off of him after this year. He has 2 more years left on his contract. That final year, kind of a dummy debt year. And so if it blows up in the Dolphins' faces, they can just move off of Minka after 2025. Ironically enough, they drafted him, and then they traded him to Pittsburgh during his second year. He becomes, I think, a 5-time All-Pro player with Pittsburgh, and now the Dolphins get him back. Speaking of Miami, they are a team going into the 2025 season I have no clue about. They can't win in cold weather. Tua, I think, is 0-8 as a starter in games under 45 degrees. Their coach, Mike McDaniel, is 0-5 in games of 40 degrees or lower. They can't win in cold climates. They don't fare well against legitimate teams. Tua, when he's on the field healthy, not dealing with concussion issues, makes that team solid, but not elite. I could see them either vying for a playoff spot or being an unmitigated disaster of Mike McDaniel getting fired in 2025. I mean, that's one of the few teams in the NFL who I just can't find a pulse on the Dolphins for what they're going to look like this upcoming year. Now, I do want to ask you this. Who won the trade? Type PIT for Pittsburgh, MIA for the Miami Dolphins. Share your thoughts with me down in the comment section. Now let's get to how this blockbuster trade, and I categorize it as a blockbuster because Jalen Ramsey's been a multi-time All-Pro player. Jonnu Smith last year had a career year. He was a Pro Bowler. Minka Fitzpatrick has been a multi-time All-Pro. How does it impact the Philadelphia Eagles, this blockbuster trade? Eagles elect to not go after Jalen Ramsey. Talked about Ramsey on the show and why it could happen with the Eagles trading for him because Philadelphia is mentioned as a team who could show some interest. I never really bought it because him and Vic Fangio did not get along when Fangio was the Dolphins coordinator in 2023. Fangio is an old school guy, takes no bullshit, and doesn't care for me guys who show up late to meetings who are malcontents. It's Jalen Ramsey. So I just didn't envision a pathway where the Eagles, even if they didn't or don't like Keely Ringo, we're going to trade for Jalen Ramsey. So the Eagles don't go after Ramsey. Eagles didn't go after Jair Alexander either. They like, in my opinion, Keely Ringo. They also like Adoree Jackson. After they signed Adoree Jackson, the Eagles are talking about how they still think Cooper DeJean in the slot. Now, if the Eagles do a move at corner, I think the move that they do make is Asante Samuel Jr. Ball skills, young player, coming off a neck injury. It would be a cheap prove-it deal. Eagles love NFL bloodlines. That's the son of Asante Samuel Sr., one of the top cornerbacks in the history of the NFL, especially with the ability to produce big plays and picking passes off and performing well in the biggest of games. And prior to only playing 4 games last year, Samuel Jr. had double-digit pass breakups in every year. Not the best tackler, but he's a winner who can give you lockdown play on the outside. Has a medical checkup coming up this month after undergoing that neck surgery. We'll see there. Outside of the Eagles not going after Jalen Ramsey, the next question becomes, what happens with TJ Watt? Does Howie Roseman make a move there? A lot of reports that multiple teams have been calling about Watt. I don't think the Eagles are going to show interest. I don't think it makes sense for Philadelphia. All offseason, the Eagles have let players go. They have made moves to open up cap space and cash so that they can lock down some of their building blocks in the future. And those building blocks include Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, who are contract extension eligible after this year. It includes Reed Blankenship, who's extension eligible right now. Kobe Dean is going to be a free agent after this year. We'll see if he can get healthy. Then you also have the budget for Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. That's going to be here before we know it. Dallas Goedert's on a 1-year deal. He's an older player, obviously. Moro Ajomo is going to be extension eligible after this year. And so if the Eagles really like their young players, does it make sense to trade a good player and or draft compensation for a player like TJ Watt, who has been a 5-time All-Pro in the last 6 years. He's one of the top overall defensive players in the game, but he's had injury issues throughout his career. He's 30, and he is damn well going to demand between $30 and $40 million per year. So people have, how does TJ Watt make sense? Now, between him and Myles Garrett, I would have gone Garrett, because Garrett's been more durable than TJ Watt, and I think he's slightly better. But with TJ Watt, yeah, there are some issues there. Even Trey Hendrickson, he hasn't missed a game the last 2 years. Not the player that TJ Watt is, but I just think the Eagles really like their stable core of young players, and they think that they're talented enough right now to go back-to-back and be a Super Bowl contender while also having the future in mind. So even though a lot of teams have been calling about TJ Watt, and I imagine Howie Roseman is keeping tabs on that, you have to give up a lot, and you have to pay him a lot. Now, I did see a pretty interesting idea a little bit earlier where you just guarantee TJ Watt $30 to $40 million this year. It's the final year of his contract. Then you just let him walk, and then you get a comp pick back. That would be a brilliant move by Howie Roseman. But I think TJ Watt wants long-term security. He would definitely make your team better. It just doesn't fit what the Eagles have done and what they've set up to this point. And then lastly, how this impacts the Eagles. This was a trade that happened on June 30th. You don't really see big-time noteworthy trades like this happen this late in the offseason. Is there a domino effect? Is there a trickle-down effect? Does the NFL trade market heat up? If it does, do the Eagles get involved elsewhere? Maybe something that's a little bit more realistic and cost-efficient. Do the Eagles trade a player at a position where they already have enough depth to a team that is looking for a player that doesn't have enough depth? I'm looking at Harrison Bryant, Kylan Granson at tight end, because the Eagles probably keep two tight ends on the initial 53 like they did last year, and those two tight ends are Dallas Goedert, Greg Calcaterra, and then if you need to elevate a tight end from the practice game day. Other positions where they're kind of deep at, and there are a lot of teams who are looking for some offensive linemen all across the NFL. So that is my NFL. The Eagles going in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. As always, thank you so much for supporting the show. I always love chopping it up, talking Eagles. That's what we do every single day right here on this show.
Yo, this is one of my favorite interviews I think I'll ever do. We got two-time Super Bowl champ Lane Johnson, former McCoy, former teammate of myself. Y'all, he needs no introduction. Five-time All-Pro, All-League Pro Bowl. Shady, you kick it off, man. You kick it off.
I had the pleasure to play with this young Johnson dude. Now, he had one of that beard. But Lane Johnson, one of my favorite teammates, probably the best host I've ever played with. Lane Johnson has arrived with the silk. What's up, man?
Thanks for bringing me in, man. Yeah, no, getting ready for camp, and yeah, just a few weeks away, so it's coming on as fast. Hey, Lane, let me start it with this. Y'all won the Super Bowl this year. Y'all went to the Super Bowl and lost in 22. You won the Super Bowl in 2017. What's the difference between this Super Bowl championship team versus the Super Bowl championship team in 2017 when you won it the first time? I mean, I think a lot of it goes down to like turnover. You're going to lose a lot of guys to free agency and just trying to fill that void. But I just noticed going into that next season that you're going to get everybody's best shot. So I think we got like 11 playoff teams on the schedule. We got to get our mind right. Or that's really what it goes down to, getting focused up because you're going to get everybody's best shot. The secret I would suggest to the Philadelphia Eagles is stout. Jeff Stoutland, O-line coach. I believe you're a Hall of Famer. Jason Kelsey, a Hall of Famer. Jason Peters, a Hall of Famer. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but I played with all y'all. How good is and what makes Coach Stout the secret ingredient to the Philadelphia Eagles' success? What makes him so good? He's so consistent. I think he knows how to push and motivate his players. And I feel like he's just a great teacher, not only in football, but just in life. I feel like he gets the most out of his guys, but yeah, I just think his consistency. I mean, he hasn't really changed since y'all have been in the building. He's been the same soul that he's always been. But yeah, he's just consistently the same person every day. And it doesn't matter what you've accomplished. He treats everybody the same. And it doesn't matter if you're a backup. You should be preparing like you're a starter. So I think that's why we've been successful all these years with all these different guys in the lineup.
Now, since we talk about Coach Stout, I think the conference game you guys played with Commanders, right? And before the game, I talked to him. I said, listen, I need to know, right? How the hell are you guys blocking better than J.C. Kelsey just retired a year ago? And he gave me a whole stellar answer, you know how he is. And I said, I can't use that. I want to ask you, Lane, tell me that. How the hell do you guys lose Kelsey and then you guys are even better blocking unit the next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like an individual that can trace it, identifying the defenses like his ability. Having length, playing at guard, he just made transition, I think, replacing Kelsey with Cam and having Makai there. I just felt like it helped so much just with really pass block protections, but we just had a lot of big guys, man. I'm like the second smallest dude on the line. I'm 6'6", 325, so we just had some. Jason Peters used to call him the heavy Chevy, so we had a lot of heavy Chevys last year. But yeah, it's really one of the biggest lines that I've been a part of, so you know that always helped.
Yeah, it's crazy because I was out there with Charles. He said, "Shane, this is the biggest motherfucker I've ever seen." My next question I want to ask you though is, now all the success we talk about, right? Saquon stuff going on, AJ Brown doing great things. Football, my opinion, you got quarterback Jalen Hurts balling out. But you guys want to change the tune now to next year. What do you think of
You know what I mean? Just
back to that level?
we can try. We're gonna have to peel that back a little bit anyway. Just want to try to overlap a little bit.
Yeah, you know, like I said, we have a lot of turnover, a lot of new faces, so I just think building like continuity in camp, really like taking advantage of the practices that we have. So, you know, week one we come out firing.
I'm gonna start this wire.
You know, really, I think we have good leadership. It doesn't necessarily have to be an older guy, but you know, a lot of young guys taking initiative, being more vocal. And so, you know, I think we have a lot of players that are mature beyond their years. You know, you look at the cornerback situation with Q and Coop. So I just think we
I was gonna watch this the other day. Is this him on with
it takes a lot of
what's the show
cohesiveness,
called?
and you got to build that during
Right
training.
at that facility, yeah, whatever. Shady and stuff like that, right?
I would say.
Don't do their podcast because DJ's got the coach now. Though. DJ, that's crazy, right?
What do you
Jackson
sleep
coach.
over at night? If
Yeah.
anybody. Like if you had
Yeah, for sure, yeah. Like you guys, exactly, yeah, like.
or maybe a guy
They
we
think, oh,
don't
they
know
give
that's
you their
gonna
batteries.
up at night.
I'm gonna
That you
open
gotta
it.
prepare. I know this answer.
Yeah, I mean, those names, I'm sleeping, you know, one eye open at night. Those guys. Man, I mean, those guys get your attention, but I'd say, like, probably the most underrated guy that I went against was Olivier Vernon. So, you can ask all the guys, JP, you know, Trent, Tyron, if they say the guy gets turned on.
Did you try?
He's Olivier Vernon. So, Trent's gonna be where he's at. He can get everybody all the time.
So, because you know, Shady and Saquon Barkley are different backs. Shady could make you miss on the dime, make you miss on the phone booth, cuts up the back, and you know, get busy. Saquon more downhill, does have good vision too, maybe a little bit more speed. What's the difference between blocking for a guy like Shady and blocking for a guy like Saquon?
Danny talked a lot more trash. I remember, this is my first game ever. We're playing, you know, the Commanders now, the Redskins at the time, and I remember being in the end zone warming up, and some fan was giving the Redskins flag in front of Shady. He went over there, was doing this, and he went over there and grabbed that flag and took his first off. No, it was like 31-3 at halftime. Nobody won a Super Bowl that year. And I remember JP going, I've never seen somebody talk about, you know me, I knew that I had Titans on the left sideline. I don't know what you did. You broke him off. It's also the and one mistake. So
Oh yeah, what's it called? That
Hey, Lane, obviously last year ended his greatest it can end, but what would you say
link up
was
with
the
your phone and you
hardest
can do
part of
X-ray
last season for the
you can see
team?
from the walls. Yeah.
let's see.
I'll try
I
it
mean,
later.
the Atlanta game was tough. Just having a game that we thought we should have won. But yeah, I just think probably the hardest game was the Rams game. I feel like they really, you know, it could have gone either way on that one. So, but yeah, I mean, I would say like through all the Super Bowls, like the feeling of losing one is like more of an emotional thing than winning one. So, you know, I'll never forget that. That motivates me. But
Dude, I left
yeah,
my
everything went
charger
right
out,
last year. It was fun.
and I came in here yesterday morning, and I didn't realize that it was like soaking in the water. I plugged it in, it
Before
started
everything went right
smoking,
in the middle of the
and
season,
like
it looked like
sparking
things were
my
going to go
kids. So I was like, man,
because you got
I
AJ
said
Brown,
I had to use. I was planning on running out and getting another one. So, yeah, it sucks so spending on that, and then right at the end of that, because I tried it multiple times, and every time I did, it would like sizzle, and like, you know, so I don't plug it, and it's working now. So
leader
yeah,
of the team on offense. Because when I was
Really?
there,
Yeah.
you could have said it was Vic, you could have said it was Full, you were still a young bull at the time. JP, but he didn't really
Oh, I really do.
talk too much. He just hit us on the head before we walked out onto the field. So who was the leader? Who's the leader on offense?
That's nuts. Cool, yeah.
coach, and we'll talk about it in the room. So all that stuff that's in the media that can cause an issue or has caused distraction, we've all talked about it and try to overcome it as man. But I think it's, when you have so many dynamic playmakers and they feel like, yeah, if we did throw the ball 50 times a game, AJ would probably, have the most receiving yards every year. And it's like, but you have Saquon in the backfield too, so how are you supposed to beat the demands of all these guys? So there is no right or wrong way, but it is hard to manage. So that was something we had to work on last year, mid-season.
So y'all had a meeting after that passing quote. Y'all had a meeting after that locker room incident, and like y'all
moments that cause distraction amongst the team. Yeah, we talk about it usually within the next week.
That's good. I mean, obviously it worked out throughout the championship. I do think that.
Yeah, but I think the best thing about Nick is that every good communicator, and so nothing is left, for the team to discuss. It's all, we all about it amongst each other. So, which is good or bad.
No, I got two quick questions for you. One is, just speak about Nick for a second, and then my next question is, I want you to think about this. It's more personal. It's answer the one with Nick first.
Yeah, Nick's, I think he's evolved, as he's become a head coach. There's things, he had some vocal stuff on the sidelines, but, he's addressed stuff with the team when he's wrong, and I think that makes him human, makes him vulnerable. I think it makes guys, communicate more effectively with him. So, with everything, I think he's always seeking good guidance. Usually when we have guys come and speak to the team, it's really worthwhile, and he learns. But and he's very passionate, and he's a competitor, and so I think we all realize that with him, and so and that's what gets us motivated.
Yeah, I love Nick. For me, was one of the first things that all the players talk extremely highly about it. This one here is personal for you, from me. I want to know this, man. How do you stay elite? Because I remember at the height of my career, one thing I do regret is I took it for granted. Like, first teams and all pros, and it becomes easy, right? And then you can lose it so fast. So how do you stay motivated to be one of the top tacklers in the game over and over?
Yeah, I'm a creature of habit. Like, if I'm not working out or training, like something I've been doing since I've been 17 or 18, I feel like, I'm getting out of line or I'm not, I'm going to fall off. So I just say, somehow, like, I'm not reaching my potential has always motivated me. But, yeah, I stay pretty secluded in the offseason. I'm low-key. I have a gym that's close to the house, so I'm usually up there training, working with high school kids, college kids, but in everything I do, I try to evaluate, was I better than I was in previous seasons? How's my mobility? How's my strength? Stuff I need to work on. So, I'm just constantly evaluating myself. And I think, as an older player, a lot of guys, maintain their strength, but you can lose mobility. So, like, a lot of me is working on mobility, staying limber, staying work, I can be explosive. And it's, how it is when you get your 30s, ankles and knees start creaking and cracking. So, man, it's, I have some bad days.
Exactly, yeah.
Liam, my last one here for you, and I'm really not this question right now because really two questions. What do you think about them trying to get the out of there, and what in the world do y'all do, and why are y'all so dominant at this touch push?
And we were two votes away from it being out, but yeah, it's a play that I think it's really hard on the center and both guards. Like, the tackle does, Jordan's better at it than I am, still on the backside, but yeah, it's just the quarterback sneak. I never thought this play would come to such a big debate stage that it has, but. Yeah, it was one of these things that just slowly snowballed into something the past 3 or 4 or 5 years. And, Kelsey was really good at it. I think it's how we attacked it. And I think, again, it goes down to the size of the guys we have inside the 350, 360 with guys.
What's that? Yeah, you got to put the paper up first. So, you might want to, you got to peel that back just a little bit to defend that.
That's what it goes down to.
Real quick, if I was on that team, because they don't believe me. They don't believe you. If I was on that team and I was having a year that Saquon was having, and we talking about we doing touch push on the 1 yard, how would I have behaved in there?
I had to get a fire. I just had to carry a fire extinguisher.
I'm taking 10 touchdowns from me, and I get the all-time leader rushing record, and you say I can't do it. Okay. Lane, let me ask you this, bro. 12-year career, 3 Super Bowl attendances, 2 Super Bowl champions. When you got drafted, literally, what's
I think just because like all the injuries we had and Nick coming into the moment, and it was just something that we weren't expected to do, but that season, and then just really I remember being a rookie and I'm in the huddle and I got Michael in there, I got Deshaun Jackson, I got LaShawn McCoy. I felt like I was in Madden, Madden 13, Madden 14. It was something that you grew up watching these guys on TV, and the next thing you know, you're in the huddle, you're in the locker room with these guys. So probably my biggest regret is like getting autographs, jerseys. Like I thought
with the O-line Mastermind Summit. People are highly critical of him. At this desk, we've been critical of him because he's not a traditional quarterback. He doesn't drop back and pass for 30 touchdowns, 35 touchdowns a season. I think the most he's had is 23, 24, but he's been to two Super Bowls, including winning one in like the first 5 years of his career. What does Jalen Hurts do best?
I think his personality and how he handles just the brashness of, how
Well, it's not working right
I think he's
now.
the perfect
Yeah, I'll put it back on.
temperament that we all need, in the locker room, coaches. He does a good job of, handling every situation. I thought he's always been the same guy from when he was a rookie to, where he is now. So, I think I have the most respect for him because I see how he works every day. People see